Hi everybody, thanks for coming out to this webinar, Attract More Clients Hosting Office 365 on Remote Desktops. I'm your host, Guillaume Boisvert, Product Director at SherWeb for Infrastructure as a Service, Platform as a Service, and Disaster Recovery. It clearly does not fit on my business card, but it's a nice title anyway. This week I'll be joined by two very special guests, Taylor Mineri, President of Axon Consulting Services. He'll be joining us to tell us a little bit about what he's been doing with Office 365 and Remote Desktop at SherWeb. And we'll be joined by his account representative, Nicholas Ford. Hi, Nick.
Hi there.
So let's see what we'll be looking at today. So let me just skip through all of this quickly. So we'll be talking about Office 365 on Remote Desktop. What is it? What does it do? We'll be telling you how you can leverage your partnership with SherWeb to make the most of that. We'll be giving you a bit of a live demonstration because what's better than actually seeing what you can do. Then we'll talk about that partner success story, which is Axon and Taylor. And then we'll give you some first steps, where you should go, what you can do to get started if we've convinced you. I'm hoping that we have. Past this, I don't know if it's in the agenda. It's not in the agenda. So we'll have a Q&A session at the end. Please send your questions right now through the whole webinar. We love questions. The more questions, the better. Actually, we feel it's one of the ways that people get the most value out of the webinar is if they can get question and answer very specific about their specific needs. We're not afraid of questions. We'll take any question on and try to give you the best answer possible. Other little note about the webinar itself. It is recorded. It will be available, we usually say 24 hours, but let's say 24 to 48 hours after the webinar itself. We'll send you a link to where you can watch the whole thing. If you want to send your friends and family as well for Christmas, maybe a nice gift to watch this webinar on YouTube. Actually, if that's your gift for Christmas, you're a terrible, terrible person. Moving on. Office 365 on Remote Desktop. So we feel a picture is worth 1,000 words. This one gives you a bit of an idea. So as most people that are attending a webinar are familiar with IT, this is a Mac OS. Well, actually, this is physically a Mac that you can see on the screen with Mac OS. And within that window, they're running Windows 10. So one of the things that Remote Desktop allows you to do is to run really a full Windows computer on any operating system that will run that Remote Desktop client. And that includes most devices, really. Android, iOS, Mac OS. I believe there's even one on Linux nowadays. So the idea with this presentation is to give you a chance, and my marketing people got a little creative with this slide. I like it a lot. SherWeb has been selling you and selling through you. You'll be providing your clients with Office 365. What we want to do is, we've always been giving you access to Remote Desktop. What this presentation is really about is the intersection between the two. It's using Remote Desktop, using Office 365 to make the most, be able to offer more to your clients, be able to give you the opportunity to earn more for your services. That's the whole idea, that intersection. There's a really nice sweet spot. We have more and more partner like Taylor, they'll be talking a little bit later, that are doing that and are finding a lot of success. Maybe one question I can ask right away is how many people are familiar with Remote Desktop, what it is and what it allows you to do. And when I say Remote Desktop, I mean the whole shebang, meaning that it could be terminal session, it could be remote desktops, but it could also be remote app. So I'll be showing you remote app a little later, which is the ability to just run a single app remotely in a very transparent fashion. So we'll get to the demonstration for the people that are a bit unclear about what it looks like, what they can offer. Actually, I think I'm gonna go off the script a tiny bit and show you the demonstration now. So what you can now see on the screen is the web interface for an app collection offered through Remote Desktop. So basically your clients could log into a simple web page, obviously controlled by their AD, and have access to pre-installed applications or to have access to a full desktop. So in this example, you have many installed applications, QuickBooks, Skype, Excel, Word. But you also have the ability to start that remote session. So this particular link would be the full remote session where you would have a full desktop. In this particular case, let me show you what the remote apps look like. So first example that you can see here is a very simple application, the good old calculator. Obviously not something that you should really pitch to your client, may not be the most impressive. But we're all here today to talk about, Office 365. So this is a link I've created off of my remote collection to run Word. So I simply click this. Actually, my session was already started in this particular case, so you see. And I'm positive there's a number of people that are now on this webinar that are wondering, what is the difference? You're just running Word. Well, that's the nice thing about remote app. As you can see, I'm running Word. It's running like Word would always run, but this application that you see on your screen is not running off of my computer. Only the remote app client is running, and this is a visual representation. The Word application itself is running on my server on SherWeb's Performance Cloud infrastructure. So once it's configured, it is very seamless for your client. So we'll talk about the advantages of that. I just wanted to make sure that people got a bit of a visual. So I have two examples of files that I've created. One of them is on my OneDrive because this is Office 365. I have access to OneDrive. So wherever I am, I could open this OneDrive file. And here's a local file. And when I say local, I mean local to the RDS setup, the remote desktop setup. So although it is local, you can see the path here. It says, I believe we can see it in the presentation. Yeah, you can see C user John Smith, which is my user document. This local quote unquote file would follow me wherever I go. So I could be on a iPad, open the same remote app collection and get access to this file as it is being local. So for example, if I open it, it really only takes a second and I have access to the content of that file. And then I could edit it and save it. No, I would never do that. Save it and then go on a different device, go on my phone, be on someone else's computer, and then securely access that file as if I was standing at my desktop. And that's the idea with remote desktop. And in this case, this is remote app, so it's just the app itself. One of the questions we often get is, do I still have access to my local computer? Can I open local files? You can. You can even save locally. It's just against best practice because the whole point of having a cloud desktop is you want to put the stuff in there with the cloud desktop so that the next time you open it somewhere else, you have access to everything. So this was, for example, Word. If I do the same thing with Excel, so same deal, I'm logged in with the same user. I can access my OneDrive, I can access local file. I believe this is a valid file, I'll take a chance. Yes, so this is a file I created in OneDrive. I could access it through OneDrive, I could share it, and then I can edit it remotely. One of the reason, and I'll get back to my presentation. So you may be wondering, so there's really two sets of advantages of doing that. And one of them is for you, the partner, the reseller, the person that runs this. And then there's a set of advantages for end clients as well that are just as valid. And when we're talking about selling a solution, those end client advantages have to be very powerful, very strong. And after that, when it comes to you for selecting the solution, then we're talking about those reseller advantages. So the main advantages for the end client, and that's what I just basically demonstrated, is that it's the access to the full suite of Office apps and other line of business apps from anywhere. So I showed, because of the team of this webinar, I showed Office application. It would be the same for other line of business. You saw that I had QuickBooks installed in that particular collection. Well, that's one of our very popular use case. Like a lot of clients are running that QuickBooks. They want to have the, so most people are familiar with QuickBooks Online, the new SaaS version, software as a service version of QuickBooks. And we've seen many end client not wanting to move to that SaaS version and wanting to stick to their old or traditional local installation. But at the same time, you got to move on with the times, and they're looking to get into cloud desktops, remote desktops. So doing remote app with QuickBooks is a very good compromise. So same thing for Office. I don't want to get into the negative so much, but one of the challenges that people have is they get to Office 365, they see there's an online version of the application, and they think, well, that's it, I'll have access to everything that, let's say, Excel can do online. And For people that have tried it, they know that's not the case. The online apps of Office 365 are great, but they're really meant more to consult documents, to look over files. If you have to do actual work remotely and you wanna do that, you still need the full fat version of the applications, and really that cloud desktop running Office 365 really gives you the best of both worlds. After that, more advantages for your client. We're talking about meetings, changing business needs with ease. So traditionally, if they have a new staff, then we're talking about buying a new computer, setting up that computer. If you as an IT provider, you're well set up, you probably have ghosting software, but still you have to go through all that, give them access to everything. Once they are on a remote desktop, it's really more one size fit all. So they just need a workstation and they can connect, and the setup is already there. It's a copy of everybody else. It only took you a few minutes to set up. It goes both ways. If they have less staff for some unforeseen reason, it's also a lot easier to decrease the resource they're using in the cloud than it is to get rid of computers. You can do a yard sale, but that may not produce the results that you're looking for. Secure sensitive information is a good one, and one that people often don't think about. So if somebody is using, if you're Salesforce, for example, you have a few salespeople that are on the road a lot, and they're using a laptop, and all the information for your company is on that laptop, that really is a security risk. We've seen a lot of issues with that. It's some of our clients, that's the reason they came to us for Office 365 on remote desktop. They wanted a way to make sure that all the data was secured in one place, and that one place be a very secure place. So they selected the SherWeb Performance Cloud Infrastructure as a Service as a very, very enterprise grade, very secure environment with firewall, intrusion detection, redundant hardware, et cetera, et cetera. I'll get into that a little bit later. And then people are basically just connecting remotely and leaving the files on there. So that's one of the strong points of a remote desktop setup. Another thing that we've seen is to extend the lifespan of existing PCs. So few people start a conversation there, but it often comes up. So you show up at a new or potential client, or you have an existing client that's been with you for a while, and they have old desktop. And I mean, we're all in the SMB space, I think. I'd say the majority of people have desktops that are outdated and should have been changed like 4 years ago. They were old 4 years ago. But when you get into that price tag, that CapEx investment of changing out that hardware, it's often a very hard conversation. It's very hard to convince them to make that jump. So another conversation that usually goes a lot better is you can tell them that, hey, instead of doing CapEx, we can do OpEx. We can add some servers in Performance Cloud on a pay-as-you-go model where you pay a fee every month, and you can use your old desktop as basically a dumb terminal or 10 clients, and their performance is going to be great. Because remember, the only thing that thin client is going to run in the end is that remote desktop connection software. After that, all the application, all the operations are going to be done on the server side. So that's another advantage that we've seen clients really benefit from. And then the last one, and it's not negligible, it's a good conversation to have with your client. I think we're giving you some interesting tips as far as conversations that you can have, is it gives you disaster recovery. And I'll tell you why. So if a client, and it's a conversation we recommend. We have other products also that apply to that, and I won't plug them in. So the conversation is like, what if the building burns down where your offices are? Like, what's your plan then? And for SMB, the answer to that question is usually very unpleasant, as in there is no plan. We have stats here that state that basically within a year, anybody that had a major disaster, 65% of the companies go bankrupt. Like, they never come back from that disaster. If they're all operating on cloud desktops, they could simply go home and start the remote desktop connection and be ready to work 5 minutes later. You can just send the people home, say, hey, we had a flood, we're no power today, like there is a major electrical issue. Just go home, work from home. Even if the burning bell down, oh, we're going to have a new building in 2 weeks, you could say work from home for 2 weeks, and the operation just keep on ticking. This, and it's very unfortunate, this actually happened to one of our partners, but they were, well, not the partner, but the end client of a partner. But they were already set up like that. So basically, 24 hours later, the sales team, the accounting team, all the operations were running again. Obviously, when it came to the shop floor, that took a little bit longer because it's hard to send machinery in the cloud. This is all good for the end client. I think that you have a very good case that you can make with them with all this. But you need to be convinced as well, and I appreciate that. So for resellers, what are the advantages? So offers are immediate remote customer support. So I think by now most managed service providers are using some kind of remote access software, and they've have it set up in different locations and everything. But the idea with remote desktop is you wouldn't need that. All your clients would basically be in one place, and then you can remotely access, because that's what it's built for. You can manage it from them, you can support them, but it would really cut down on your traveling time, really cut down on the different tools that you have to have. Like, you can do it all from one spot, and that ties into the next point, which is streamline IT services. You want to make it as easy as possible for your client, but you want to make it as easy as possible for yourself. So if you do images and you have like profiles that are already established, they're all in one place. When you want to add another user, it's really a 5-minute thing that you can go through. Like, all those things make it different on your bottom line. The less time you spend on a fixed amount contract, the more money stays in your pocket. And I think we all want that. Another thing that it allows you, an easy entry to cloud hosting. So I know most of the people that are attending this webinar know SherWeb primarily as a Office 365 provider. And that's great. I think that's the best place to start in the cloud. But after that, if you want to widen your offering, if you want your portfolio to be a bit more robust when it comes to cloud services, having that RDS setup is something that people will appreciate. I'm not saying it's 100% of clients that will take it, but it's a conversation you can have, and you will show that you are a modern cloud service provider. That you've made the switch with the new paradigms basically that are out there, and that you know what you're talking about, and you can offer full services. Another thing that is attached to that is to create stickiness. So if you sell new hardware to a client, so new desktops, new laptops, things like that, and I know a number of our partners are doing that, it's a good sale, probably a nice commission check, like one time. But after that, the client's not attached to you in any way. If they want somebody else to service their desktop, then they're gone. If you've moved them to the cloud, they've become much more attached, and we see that amongst our partners. The retention is a lot better if the people are using you for cloud services. And with SherWeb, you can do all this white label, so they don't even have to know it's SherWeb. They can think it's your cloud desktop installation. Another thing, not the least of it, is had recurring revenue. So I just mentioned it. Nice laptop sale is good. Having money coming in every month is even better. And since your professional services are attached to that revenue, it's both very important recurring revenue, both services and, well, services. Call it product, both product and your services on top of them that are now in a recurring model and that are coming in every month. Hopefully, and I think it's the case for most of our partners, you give really good service, and that attachment is going to be great. Last thing, and it's none the least, is the use in a multi-tenant environment. That gets slightly more complicated, but I think it's something that we need to cover. A full remote desktop setup for a single client, it works starting at, and it depends on the type of client, but let's say it's starting 10 user, you really have a case like it's going to be cost feasible. Less than that, it gets a little tricky because there's a bit of overhead, meaning that you got to have an AD server and things like that. We have a solution for you. You can build your own multi-tenant environment. You can build your own cloud desktop offering where you have multiple users. And actually, that is a use case that we'll cover with our partner Taylor in just a moment. The idea there is you would do one setup and then share it between multiple clients, lowering that overhead and really lowering your costs. It also gives you the ability to add, like once you have it, if you add a couple of additional clients, there is almost no additional cost to those couple of clients. It's mostly all profit. What that has enabled people to do is really offer this product to one user organization, 2, 3, 5 easily. There is no reason that multi-tenant environment can be used for a 100 user environment, but it's just less typical. But we had a lot of resistance to the single environment for a single client that has 2 or 3, that needs 2 or 3 user. We've seen that multi-tenant environment really be a case of right time, right place. Nice thing, and I'll cover that in the next step, is that we have guides to do all of this. We have a full guide to do the individual remote desktop setup. We have a full guide to do the multi-tenant setup, and then we have a small, it's very short, guide on how to set up Office 365 on those both those environments. Don't hesitate. If you have questions, ask them as we go. We'll answer as many as possible towards the end. So, now that you're impressed by the technology, you're happy with the advantages, the question is, who would be interested? And the conclusion is there's a lot of markets, a lot of potential users. What we say is, if you look at the benefits that I was just on, some of them apply to different groups. So for example, I'll give you an example, the centralization of the documents, the security aspect. Well, everybody that's legal, everybody that's healthcare, those people have really an affinity for that advantage. If you're looking at the ability to have multiple users use the same computer, like things like that, then you're talking about shift workers, seasonal industries, even a sales team. When we're talking about being on the road and everything, then we're talking about the organization of sales force that's traveling. So most company, the salespeople are on the road, lost laptop, theft, things like that. Really a problem traditionally, not once you're putting them on cloud desktops. So that's all well and good, and I'll be honest with you, you could do all that without SherWeb. Here's a few reasons why we think you should stick to us to do a project like that. I'm going to talk briefly about the SherWeb Performance Cloud. It's our infrastructure as a service. It is what this product would be built on if you decide to go ahead and do it as a partner. This infrastructure as a service offers all the advantages of cloud servers, basically. So cloud servers, virtual networking, self-managed backup, cloud databases are the basic functionality, if you will. And then you get all the advantages of the cloud. So you can pay as you go with an hourly billing. That means that, I'll give you an example attached to remote desktop. You do your setup for exactly the number of users that you have. So as much RAM, as much CPU storage that you need, pretty much exactly. And then you get a call from a client. It says, yeah, I have 2 new employees that are starting tomorrow. You add a little bit of RAM to that server, to that host. You add a little bit of performance, and now you start paying, but your revenue also just came in. And that's the response, that's the need we get from partner. I want my expense to be attached to revenue. That way it's not expense, it's profit. And that's what we try to do. That's what we try to offer. Easy self-provisioning. Once you're enabled, and we'll help you get enabled. Don't worry about that. We'll walk you through everything. But once you understand how everything works, you don't even need us. There's a self-service portal. You just go in, you can change your configuration, you can do all of that. Through elasticity, I talked a little bit about that. If you need to change the configuration 1 minute to the next, then you can do that. We offer both Windows and Linux servers. Obviously, in this case, we're talking about Windows, but if you have a client that wants to move all they have, and some of it is Linux, it works great in our Performance Cloud. We offer 5.9 SLA, financially backed, so if we're down more than basically 26 seconds in a month, you get some a refund part of your billing. And we offer API access. If you're a little bit more advanced and you want to code against our cloud, you can do that. So why do remote desktop, remote app with us? Price performance. So we've named the product SherWeb Performance Cloud, and that means there's performance in it. There's better performance than most other cloud out there. The idea there is to provide you with the best possible experience, to provide your customer with the best possible experience. Sorry. It applies directly to remote desktop, and the reason is the more performance you get from your infrastructure, the less of it you need. So if you can run 10 user instead of 5 user on a, I'll give you just rule of thumb, but 4 CPU, 8 gig of RAM setup, then you're saving money. Most of our clients, well, not most of our clients, I'd say the people that are more familiar with this, they charge per user to the client, and usually they'll bundle those service into that. So basically they go head count. So you have 12 employees. Okay, we're going to make you a price that's, I don't know, 50, 60, 80, 100, 200. It really depends on the type of service they bundle. But in that service will be their cloud desktop, their Office 365 license, local support, backup, networking, troubleshooting, and all of that. And the idea there is you can grow that remote desktop setup, and it's going to be marginal cost, and then those additional users become mostly all profit. And that performance is what enables you to put more clients on that same setup. Virtual machine that deliver optimal RDS experience, that's literally what I just said. The performance there is great, your user happy. The one knock against remote desktop, usually, typically, is the performance. So if it takes forever, if it runs poorly, that's what people are usually complaining about. And if you have previous experience, that might be what you heard and why you're a little hesitant to try it. That's one of the reasons we built a performance cloud the way we did it, is to enable that experience to be of a high quality, to be equal or better than what they get on their current desktop. SLA per individual VM, which is a way to say that if you get a single server, it still has that 5.9 SLA. You get access to our cloud architects. So if you have questions, if your client has a particular need regarding remote desktop, we'll give you all the information. We'll help you do that setup. 24/7 customer support is included in everything that we do. You can call, you can email us. We'll answer your question. We'll give you great support. And we also make managed services available. If you need a little bit of help or if you want to focus on something else, we've had partners that have grown very fast. So they use our managed services to make us do basically the grunt work while they focus on the high value items. So I did the demonstration, so we'll skip right along and we'll talk about our partner. So let me pass it over to our executive, Nick Ford, who's going to introduce us to, Taylor.
All right, thank you, Guillaume. So hi, everybody. Some of you might already know me, and if we've had the chance to talk already, I've probably talked to you about Performance Cloud. It is probably my favorite product line that we have. To me, selling an email can get repetitive, but with Performance Cloud or infrastructure in general, there's always something different to go after. So I've been working with Taylor here from Axon Co. for about since the summer of 2016. I reached out to him when I got the account from my now manager, and we initially just jumped right into looking at hosting Office 365 on Performance Cloud. So what I'll do right now is I'll let Taylor introduce himself, a little bit about his company, and then we want to run over just a couple questions around this partnership.
Hello, everybody. My name is Taylor Maneri. I am the president and founder of Axon Consulting Services. I launched my business in 2012 after spending roughly 10 years with a smaller IT shop here in New Jersey, and decided to start my own shop. Basically, what I offer, starting in 2012, my main offering was just on-site management of servers, deployment, network architecture, network design, and help desk support. As I was growing my business, I quickly realized that managing lots of servers on customer sites all over the state, some into New York, it became very time consuming. A piece of hardware dies on a Sunday night, you're getting up and you're running and you're going to fix that. Sometimes, if you're doing flat rate billing, you're not even making money doing that kind of stuff. So with that thought process, I really wanted to start pushing my customers to the cloud, knowing that I have a team like SherWeb able to manage the entire environment, and I can basically just go out and sell. My sales skills have improved greatly over the past year, simply due to the fact that I want to increase this cloud portion of my business. It's allowed me to spend a heck of a lot more time focusing on the administration portion of my business, and instead of the break fix useless stuff that you're not really making any money on. It's allowed me to build partnerships with other companies, aside from SherWeb, where I just wouldn't have had the time to do that to begin with. So I've really enjoyed my partnership with SherWeb. And that's basically what my business is, providing IT services for small businesses and medium-sized businesses in the tri-state area, basically.
Wonderful, thank you, Taylor. And what would you say was the what initially attracted you to SherWeb and to reach out to us and look into the partnership?
Well, the initial attraction was that I wanted to resell Office 365. I started down the path of becoming a Microsoft partner on their partner network. It was miserable, to be completely honest with you. Trying to figure your way out through their labyrinth of documentation to actually even be able to quote something and sell something seemed borderline impossible to me. I got quickly frustrated, so I decided to do some Googling on how to sell Office 365 through a different business. SherWeb came up. I had heard of SherWeb before, so I decided to sign up and take a look. With that came the Cumulus portal, which is phenomenal. It's extremely easy to use. In the Cumulus portal, you have each one of your customers broken down into their own category, and then you can add licenses to that individual customer. So from management of licenses specifically, that was a huge reason why I wanted to go with the Cumulus portal.
Wonderful. And can you tell us a little bit about the original, client need that brought you to hosting Office 365 in an RDS environment?
Yeah, so again, I had wanted to push all my customers to a cloud server anyway. Again, I didn't want to manage on-site servers, so the original issue here was I had a customer with probably a 6-year-old server, chomping at the bit, didn't want to spend the 15, 20 grand it was going to cost to do a virtual environment, setting everything up on site, plus management and installation fees. He was looking at 15, 20 grand. So I decided to use this as an opportunity to sell my first cloud server. They were struck by lightning on a Wednesday evening. called me up Thursday. A lot of their equipment died, despite having an APC battery. A lot of the equipment died. So within, I want to say 48 hours, we had a cloud server launched, up and running. Actually, we ended up doing a multi-tenant environment in this situation, which I've continued to expand on. But basically, sorry guys, I lost my train of thought here. Basically, what we did for them was within the span of, I think it was about 72 hours, we were able to launch an entire cloud server, migrate all of their data over a VPN, site-to-site VPN between their office and the SherWeb data center, and have them up and running come Monday. Proactivity would have been a better solution in this scenario, but sometimes customers need to get hit hard before they can make a decision to migrate. So that was the initial client request that got me selling the Office 365 solution on remote desktop servers for that particular customer.
So
just touch base on that customer a little. They have 20 thin clients. I know we touched base on that a little bit. They have 20 thin clients, and they're all using remote desktop via the thin clients.
So Taylor, I guess the conclusion is that we just need everybody to get hit by lightning.
Pretty much.
That would make things a lot easier, I agree.
Yeah, or we could have maybe a disaster recovery plan in place and not wish it upon anybody, right?
I agree. Proactivity is the key.
Yeah, no, quite electrifying. Next question. How would you say hosting Office 365 specifically on remote desktops has helped your clients? Right now we have the disaster that happened, but outside of that, can you name us a couple benefits?
Sure. Well, some of my clients have, just hourly support through me. I'll bill them on an hourly basis, and some of them have flat rate support. I can remember specific times going to customer sites, their computer crapped out, hard drive died or whatever, and you got to reinstall the operating system and reinstall Office. First question is, do you have your Office license available? Oh, no, I lost it. I don't know where it is. Well, now we got to buy Office again. So being able to utilize the Cumulus portal and Office 365, I no longer have to have my clients or myself manage their Office licenses. Log right online, add a new user, remove a new user anytime I want. I don't have to document product keys, keep CDs around, install files. It's all available online, super easy to access. In terms of management of the servers and users on the RDS, I'll give a small example. Think of one of your customers' environments. I'll give you an example. A customer's office who has 20 computers, 5 of them have QuickBooks on it. You got to do a QuickBooks update? Well, you got to go to all 5 computers, process that update, and then they can use the software. That takes a bit of time. With a RDS, you log into the remote desktop server, update QuickBooks there once. All those 5 users that are accessing it are now updated. So you save yourself a ton of time in management, which ultimately saves the customer money if you're billing them hourly.
Wonderful.
And again, on that, you have no hardware to manage. SherWeb is managing the entire cloud environment for you. So really all you're managing is the operating system. You can also have SherWeb manage the operating system for you if you'd like. Mm-hmm. So in a question?
Okay, perfect. So yeah, so just to jump into the next one here real quick, we kind of wanted to also ask, as far as for your business, what about Performance Cloud specifically with 365 has helped to contribute to your success as a business owner, financially changing into more of a monthly recurring revenue model with these products?
Yep. So, like I said, I was billing customers to manage hardware on site and computers on site, and anytime they got a virus on their desktop, I'd bill them hourly. So their IT costs were relatively high. In a multi-tenant environment, you can have just 2 domain controllers. Obviously, depending on the size of the environment, you can have 2 domain controllers. And then the way I've done it is each customer has their own remote desktop server that they log into utilizing my 2 domain controllers. Now, what's great about that is each one of my customers is essentially paying for the resources of that domain controller and their own RDS. So from a residual income perspective, I have multiple customers paying for the exact same servers. So my residual increase in profit went up almost 40% since I've launched this multi-tenant environment since June.
Oh, that's fantastic. And what would you say as far as making the sale, going to the customer and positioning it? How do you find how that's going, with this new offering that you're doing, going up and going against actually purchasing the hardware, having the customer touch the hardware?
It's been a blessing. Sometimes you run into a customer who's very hesitant to go to the cloud. You really need to work on your sales skills in that case. But the goal there is to specify how important security is and how they will never accomplish the level of redundancy that the cloud environment has, not without spending buku bucks. if you look at the there's a visual on SherWeb's website explaining to you how redundant the environment is. It's completely redundant. I've been using it now again since June. I don't think I've had a second of downtime. So they're above and beyond their 99.999% uptime. And then from a scalability standpoint, like these guys have mentioned, customer calls me and say, hey, things are running slow. We added a new software package on there. Okay, no problem. Have everybody hop off. I'll take the server down, increase the performance, add another CPU, add a couple gigs of RAM, and they're back up and running within 20 minutes. Versus, oh crap, our hardware's too old. Now we got to buy a new server. We got to spend another $2-3 grand. It just never tastes good for the customer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, that's fantastic. Thank you very much. And now the last question is really more of a moment of truth question, I guess, for myself. So this comes from, I guess, Guillaume and a couple other people here. But we would like to find out, what about your relationship with your account executive? So this would be myself in this case. What do you appreciate the most? How does that work? What's your experience like?
Well, first of all, Nick, you're a wonderful guy. You're extremely responsive. You're fun. You're friendly.
We're not paying him to say this, by the way.
You got great head on your shoulders. What has contributed to, what about Performance Cloud specifically has contributed to the success? Is that the question here, or my partnership with you?
The partnership with, your relationship with myself and SherWeb as a whole, right?
So my partnership with Nick has been great. Anytime I email or call Nick, he responds very quickly. He's extremely knowledgeable. He always puts me in touch with the right people. Anytime I've had a problem, Nick's the guy I call and complain to, and he handles it very well. But again, he's always knowledgeable about the products that I'm inquiring about, and he's always putting me in touch with the right people to accomplish what I'm looking to do in a timely fashion.
Wonderful. Well, there's a nice ego boost there, so definitely appreciate that. Guillaume, did you want to jump in with any other questions here? Or?
No, I think we've covered pretty much everything there. Thank you very much, Thader, for participating.
Yes, thank you very much. Really appreciate that.
Thank you guys for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. So, now that we know what it is, that we know it works, and we know the opportunity we're sort of providing with that, here's a few hints and tips on how to get started. So this isn't meant to be read. This is meant to just show you what we have. On the left, what you can see is an example of sales information that we've provided. It's a quote-unquote sales script. Basically, what we want is to give you some guidance of how the conversation can go with somebody that's buying Office 365 off of you, how to bring the conversation to the cloud desktop, the remote desktop services. There's some comparables, how to compete with on-premise, how to compete with other cloud providers. There's some typical configuration to give you a sense of price. By the way, don't forget, if you have questions, please put them into the Q&A box. We'll take some time at the end. Looks like our timing is pretty good to have the time to answer questions. On the right in that slide, you can see we have a checklist for Office 365 on a remote desktop environment. It lists off all the things that you need to have or to know before you can get started. One of those things is a thing that I forgot to mention. One of the questions we were asked during the presentation actually caught me on that. You need to have Office Pro Plus to do the remote desktop. And Office Pro Plus you can either buy on its own through Office 365, and what we're talking about today is not it's through Office 365. So through Office 365 you can get it as Office Pro Plus as a product itself, or you can get it as part of E3 and up. So E3, E4, E5 will give you Office Pro Plus with the multiple computer shared computer activation. Other next step, well, you've now been introduced to Nick. I would say all of our sales rep are just as good. Better? No, just as good.
I don't want to.
They're just as friendly for sure, and I know they're listening, so you're all a great team. So if you want to reach them, you can either go through partners@sherweb.com or call the number that's on the screen. You can also visit sherweb.com/partners to either get more information about our partner programs, which we won't get into today, but do know that we offer all the flexibility. You can either be white label, you can have us do the support, you can do the support yourself, you can just refer clients, so everything is available. None of it costs anything. There is no financial commitment to becoming a SherWeb partner. So no risk. Give us a call, send us an email, have a look. So we've received some really great questions, a lot of participation today. So I'd like to go through some of them. So I mentioned the Office 365 Pro Plus. Somebody asked, is the infrastructure dedicated? So that's a good question. It's actually part of the sales process with your client. It's something that you have to understand. So SherWeb Performance Cloud is a public cloud in the sense that we have physical resources that are shared amongst many clients. The secret sauce, the magic of a public cloud is the quality of the isolation between tenants. So security-wise, you cannot access the data of anybody else. The machines are completely separated. There is no hole in that sense. And then the performance, you don't want somebody that's using all the performance slowing down everybody else. And that is the case. You are protected from noisy neighbor and from everybody else that's using the platform. But then if the question is, are the RDS servers dedicated? Is my remote desktop dedicated? Then it depends which setup you do. If you do a multi-tenant one, obviously they're shared. If you do a full RDS setup on our Performance Cloud, then those servers are dedicated. So you can tell your clients, yes, your server is dedicated to you. Do we need a shared computer activation? So you do not. We are part of a program with Microsoft where we are authorized to sell or for our partners to use our Office 365 licenses in multi-tenant environment. As long as you have the Office Pro Plus, like mentioned before, you're good to go. There's actually an URL on the website where we state that fact. If one of your client or yourself are worried about compliance, just contact us at the... Actually, I'm going to leave that up while I talk. Here we go. So just contact us at those contacts, and we'll share that link and give you all the information about how this is all compliant and all good to go. Is Windows Server 2016 available? Yes, since I think it was 3 days after availability of Windows Server 2016, we put it up as an image on the SherWeb Performance Cloud, and it is now available. By the way, the price of the OS is included in the price of the server. Somebody here asked, is there an IP address so that we can test your network and see the latency? Absolutely. Please contact your partner representative. They'll get you an IP address. Otherwise, you could just sign up, start using Performance Cloud, get yourself a server. Like, since it's pay-as-you-go, that will cost you just a few cents, and you could test that way as well. Are GPUs available on our virtual machines? Not at this time. So GPUs, 3D card, whatever. It is something that's on our roadmap for 2017. We should be able to bring that to our partners soon. The idea there, and it's another one of the questions that I see here, is can we do AutoCAD? Well, if it requires 3D, at this time you cannot do it. Soon though. So here, there's a second question about the shared computer activation. So as I said, because we are part of that Microsoft program and we have all the authorization, you are able to use licenses that you purchase with us in shared environment. Somebody asked if this was recorded and will be shared. It is, and it will be. In our marketing, and somebody questioned that. So in our marketing, we say remote desktop services as low as $25 per users. So there is two ways that you can achieve that, and some of our partners have even achieved better than that. So if it's a large enough setup, so 50 or even 25 and up, then you get pretty much into that range when you calculate the price of licenses and infrastructure and everything. And then for smaller setups, then you're talking about multi-tenant setup. And with a multi-tenant setup, you can achieve a cost of $25 per. Which leads us to a good next question. I did not see pricing for anything. That's correct. It would have been tricky to get into pricing. If you look quickly at the next step, you saw some of the typical configuration. Those documents are available in our partner toolbox. There's also a cost estimator, so you can put in the configurations to a nice Excel sheet, and it will spit out the price. The reason that we don't cover that very extensively here in the presentation is there's so many variables. So if they need a bit more performance or they have a heavier application, they'll use a little bit more RAM and everything. So we put typical configurations in there, but you can also do completely custom stuff. That sort of arcs back to one of the advantages of working with SherWeb, which is access to our cloud architects. If you feel your situation does not feel your typical setup, or if you're not 100% comfortable with what's there, simply let your rep know and they'll arrange a call with one of our architects. You can go over the need, the software that the people run and everything, and we'll talk about that and figure out what resources you need and what the exact cost is going to be. One thing we didn't mention about remote desktop and I think that's a good caveat. It's in the checklist, actually. Do you think about the internet connection of your client? As far as speed, that's not so much of an issue depending where they are and everything, because remote desktop is very optimized. The stream is very small. As I said, all they're sending to you is the image of the application. It's only a visual, and it's pretty well compressed. It's only changing you the change in the image and everything. But at the same time, if a client's completely cloud desktop and their internet connection goes down, that's a major problem. They cannot work anymore. A lot of the people that what we see partner do is they'll save the client costs going to cloud desktop instead of renewing all the hardware, but they'll include a second internet connection in that proposal. So then the client has two distinct connections to the internet. If they have a problem with one provider, they can just switch to that second provider. One question is more of a technical question. It says, how do you recommend isolating and securing a line of business server from customers in the multi-tenant environment? I'm assuming this is a question in regard to our if they build a multi-tenant RDS, how to secure different people, different application. I would recommend reading the guide that we have. It's tough for me to get into that right here in the webinar. It's a bit of a detailed explanation, but there is indication on how you make sure that everybody can only access their organization, software, data, and everything. I think this... Right, so there's a question about migrations. What's the level of knowledge that a partner needs to have to be able to do one of those migrations? That's an excellent question. I would say we have seen partners start with us with no knowledge of cloud infrastructure. Usually they have some knowledge of infrastructure itself, but not cloud. And by working with our cloud architects, by working with our migration team, they are able to do it. The nice thing is the first one, it's a little trickier, it's a little more work involved, we'll help you all the way. But after that, the second one, the third one, the fourth one gets easier and easier and easier. And it really doesn't take that many to get enabled and to be comfortable in going through that process. Of note, I don't think I mentioned in this presentation, our infrastructure as a service offer migration assistance as part of the offering, no cost to you. So we can't do full migration for you. We need your participation with the client. You know the client, you know their application. You're the one going to be able to tell us if things are working or not. So you need to participate, but it will help you. We'll provide you with the tool. We'll be there nights, weekend, whatever is necessary, because most people want to migrate on the weekend. We offer that, no problem at all. So could somebody do this if they were as a partner located outside of Canada? So absolutely. I would say most of our partners are actually in the United States. We have data centers in the United States. We offer this virtual platform in the United States as well. So we have our data centers in Canada, and we have data centers in the United States. If we're talking about outside North America, then latency becomes a question. It's something that you'd have to test. That's it. Right. So hopefully everybody enjoyed the webinar. If you have any further questions, please use the addresses that are on the board right now. We'll be happy to help. Thank you very much, Nick.
Thank you.
And thank you, Taylor.
Thank you, guys.